Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Anything Goes with Anna Rose. Today is the episode almost most of you know, if you have followed me for a minute, a month, many years, has been a long time in the making. It is a conversation that I needed to be ready to have as well. I think opening up vulnerably about domestic violence is a vulnerable thing to have. And for me personally, I always wanted to do it from the healed place and never the wound. I've been healed for a very long time, but sitting to take on the advocacy ultimately of this area is an enormous privilege in truth, but also an enormous task. And so I'm very honoured to have the incredible Michelle Faye join me today to start the conversation. I have just told her off mic. I said, you will be in a few times, let me tell you, which I'm really grateful and honoured for. But welcome to the podcast, Michelle.
Thank you very much. And I'm so happy to be here. It's a conversation that really needs to happen more.
Yeah. Now, I just said to Michelle, I said, I call you the DV expert, but what's your what are the role? I know them, but what are some of the things that you do in this area?
So, so advocacy is a big part of it, and that comes back to when services are not, I suppose, you're performing the job as we would expect or intend, and that can come down to support services, police, lawyers. It can be anyone in the sort of space that's not performing the job, and that's when I'll advocate for the client and just make sure that their voice is heard to ensure that we get the best possible outcome.
Yeah.
So that's a part of the job that I do. The other part I do is I'm a court support specialist, so I actually spend time walking into courtrooms with clients and helping them understand the process and their rights within the system, because most clients actually don't understand it.
Yeah.
And I also manage domestic violence cases, so I'm a case manager as well.
And so I'm going to ask you a lot of questions because I know we had like a little bit of a chat off air, but I genuinely obviously want to help people understand. And so I do that through my own learning. So when you say you're a support caseworker, how does that come to you? What's that situation?
Yeah, look, I am private, so I operate privately for private clients, and I commenced in that role because it was something that sort of turned up in my lap. And what I mean by that is I'd been through my own experience, and then people came at me sort of asking me questions and all that kind of stuff. So that's how it started, and then I went on to complete my Diploma of Community Services, and I'm now heading into my second year of law.
Wow.
So I actually went, okay, this is clearly a huge need, and unfortunately we'd like to think that our, government services and funded services are doing a great job, but from what I've seen, I think they do the best job that they can with what they have, but I'm just not sure that they're given the funding or even the training to do it well. So private client, people actually pay me to assist on their case and make sure they get good outcomes.
Now, I usually say this at the end, but I'm like saying it at the front end today. How can women, if someone is listening to this straight away and is like, actually, that's the very woman I'm looking for, how do they find you?
MichelleFaye.com.au.
Beautiful. I want to say
I'm
that
also on Instagram.
Because I probably would have, I would have absolutely been the woman that if I had heard this podcast back when I was in it, I would have been like, fucking get me to the end so I know how to find this woman. Beautiful. All right. Now, I don't know your story. I know you have a story in DV, and I want to start there. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. Yeah. So let's go back, because obviously is that the reason why you are obviously in this area and so passionate about it, because of your own personal experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I didn't even understand domestic violence until sort of the later years of my relationship. So I'd been in the relationship for around 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And it didn't get physical till probably about 3 years before final separation. So I didn't even know it was domestic violence.
And let's wait. Sorry, let's pin that for a second, because I was just thinking, and I know everyone knows this, but DV is not just physical violence.
Correct.
Right. So this is what she's saying. Like I understand that there's emotional manipulation, coercion, financial control.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. And all of that was huge in my relationship.
Right.
But I didn't know until I stepped out of line and it got physical. And what I mean by that is that I'd been sort of brainwashed to a point where I just did everything that I was told or everything that I knew that he expected from me. And I didn't step out of line until I suppose I got a little bit older and started to assert my independence and go, well, actually, no, I want to make decisions and I want to do ABC. And once that happened, it became physical. He needed to assert greater levels of control, and he did that through physical violence. So and now when I look back, the benefit of hindsight, I mean, I never had access to a bank account.
Financial control.
Yeah. He would give me money and that's all that I could spend. And often he wouldn't even transfer me money. He would actually only give me his card. So I couldn't even see what was on it. I couldn't see how much was spent. I had no idea. I'd get to a supermarket and the card would decline, and I would call him with a trolley load of groceries and he would laugh at me or not answer the call. And I'd often walk away, leaving the trolley and head back to the car. So I didn't know all of these things were actually control. I just thought he was handling the money and that was normal.
Yeah.
You know, even on being told how to, you know, what to wear, it was never necessarily you can't wear that. It was are you sure you want to wear a skirt that short? Like, I'm just protecting your modesty. So it was a level of brainwashing that is not that overt unless you're attuned to it.
Yeah.
Now, when I look back, I go, when I see it now, or if I meet people, if I meet men now, I'm like, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I know what that is.
I know who you are.
Yeah, I know exactly what's happening here. But you don't, like, even to the point where, you know, we'd go out to a restaurant and he'd actually order for me and say, no, you want to try the steak. I don't feel like steak, but no, it's really good. Or, you know, I'd want a glass of white wine and no, try the red. Like it. So I suppose on the surface level, or somebody that doesn't understand it to look at it, they go, oh, that's kind of nice. You know, he's trying to encourage her to try different things. That's not what it was. It was control.
Microaggressions. It's 100% control.
It was control.
And I want to say as well, like I did say to Michelle and everyone again that's listening, but a lot of people, this probably will get shared with lots of women that might not know you, might not know me, because it's an important conversation. But I remember when I was in my DV relationship, it was the exact same thing from the beginning. And I remember then sitting in the police station with my blessedly, thank God, incredible senior constable, who was amazing. But I remember he was just like, mate, you've got no idea how lucky you are. And he goes, I hate to use that word, but most women that get to this point have been there 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years.
Yeah.
And you got out in 16 months, right? And that was my experience, blessedly. But I want to say as well, what happens when we're in, okay, I'll use my language. I know when I was in my DV relationship and people said to me, you? Like you were in one?
Yeah.
No one understands. Mine was a narcissist. I'm not sure, do you classify yours?
Mine's a narcissist.
Mine is A-grade, expert level narc. And what people don't understand until they're in it, because hindsight is a beautiful thing, but the other thing is it is these microaggressions. And how I explained it in the end was that it was, for me, I bled out, but not from a knife wound, from 1,000 paper cuts. So you don't notice a paper cut. Well, you do, it stings, right? Yeah. A paper cut stings. So you notice, it's like, but I wanted the white wine. But, oh, okay. So it's like a paper cut. Yeah. But enough paper cuts over time can make you bleed out. And that's what it was. So people go, yeah, okay, I got out when the hit occurred, but it's like, for me, but I should have left 1,000 times before then. And I knew I felt like shit 1,000 times. But because typically in a coercive controlling domestic violence relationship, without nothing to do with physical violence at this point, just the coercive control, financial control, emotional abuse, those little microaggressions eat away at your soul and you become less of who you are. Yeah. They alienate you, they cut off friends, they tell you they're evil, they do all these things.
Yeah. They corrode your boundaries over time. It's boundary corrosion. And the way that I explain it to people, because, you know, the language that you used, I should have got out, I'm going to reframe that and say you couldn't get out until you did. Because if
that makes me want to cry.
We can't. Like, it's not a question of whether or not we can get up one day and go, okay, bye, we're leaving, like a normal relationship. Because it isn't like that. It isn't a normal relationship. It isn't a safe space. We should have that autonomy to turn around and say, you know what? I actually don't want to be in this relationship anymore. And they should go, okay, I respect you and I'm sad and I'm hurt and I'd really love us to continue, but I respect the fact that you don't want to be here. That doesn't happen in these relationships.
No.
That's not how it works. We don't have autonomy and we don't have choice. So just reframe that for you.
Thank you.
Because that's a question I get asked all the time, and I actually do a talk on it about, how did two things you've raised, which I think are really interesting. You ended up in that relationship. I mean, I get that all the time. All the time. I was in education, I had my own business, I had, started my own company, I'd done all of this stuff. And from the outside and people looking in, I had the perfect life. I had the marriage, I had the kids, I had the house, I had the career, and I held it all together. And people didn't on the outside even realise what was happening until I told them pretty much after he was removed. So there were people that didn't even suspect. There were people that knew something was off, but there were people that didn't know, because we become the masters of controlling our image.
Yeah.
Masters at it. Now, I think most of the time when I talk to women, we try and protect them because they've brainwashed us into that. But the other side is we deep down instinctively, we know it's not safe to leave.
No, 100%.
So we can't just get
100%.
up. And if we tell people, we know what's going to happen when we get home.
Well, you're fucking dead sometimes.
Correct. And this is the thing.
It's not worth it.
So that question, of how did you end up there, and the comment you made about leaving, it isn't possible to just leave. And, I talk about it in a window. I can now look back and I can say, you know what, there was a window of opportunity to leave, little tiny window. And I can look back and go, I should have left. But at the same time, the person I was when that window presented wasn't the person that was strong enough or able to leave.
I want people to understand this. I'm so emotional. And it's not coming from the wound. I want people to understand this so deeply because it's so validating. It's so validating to hear. I honestly did not think I would cry on this podcast, and I'm 3 minutes in.
That's okay. That's good.
Yeah, it is good. I should have fucking brought
I sometimes
tissues.
I don't know. I might break out in tears too.
But it is so validating. I've never had that reframed, and this is why I wanted you to come on, because I wanted to share more of my story, but I wanted to do it in a safe space where this could occur, where if I said something, you as the expert could say, actually, let me reframe that, and look at me in tears, because I'm like,
good.
That validation, that to me is validation, because when I've tried to explain it, not that I need to, so it's not about explaining, but just making sense of it, I suppose, internally at the time. And there was a window. I had a window as well. I'd left. So I left Perth. I'd gone over to him. We were together. It was toxic. And then he went back to Perth. Horrible things had happened in my life as well in a very short space of time. Friendships had broken down. Betrayal had occurred, not with him, with friends. And he was like, I've got you. I'm going to say, come to me, king, I'm all these things, rah, rah, rah. And I was so broken again. And I was like, I just need to take a breath. And that wasn't my moment, right? So I went to him in Perth. And the moment, because he's a narc, the moment I got there, so he had me, it was like, bang, the mask came off, he'd switched. And I was like, fuck, what have I done? And the window for me was when I then left Perth again. I think I was there 4 months, maybe 5 months. I left Perth to come home, and I was like, we are done. Right? I drove because I had my beautiful Frenchie. And I'd cut it then. I was like, I'm going, I'm out. And I could physically remove myself. But I wasn't the woman that still was strong enough. And that's where that validation comes from. Why didn't I just go, fuck off, goodbye, sayonara, you piece of shit? But I was so trauma bonded and so still broken on a wounded relationship level, not other areas of my life, financially had it, which is why I was able to get out in the end, because he could never control my money. Thank fuck. He tried so hard. But that window, that's such a beautiful explanation, because in my window, when I physically left Perth and drove back to the Gold Coast, I was like, I'm done. And then cue the love bombing again. And it was like, I'm coming to you this time. I'm going to come to you. You're not going to come to me. I'm coming to you. And that was then the very precarious moment of within 2 weeks. Like he'd ultimately tried to kill me, split my face open, punched me, stole my money. And he came to do that. That's what he came to do because he realised he'd lost me.
Well, that was the escalation.
That was the escalation.
Yeah. Same as when I'm talking about my case, I had that window and then I missed the window because I wasn't strong enough to do what I needed to do, and I wasn't the same person I am today. Today it wouldn't even it would
you don't
be
even
very,
entertain
very
it.
different because I understand it now and I didn't understand it back then, and I missed that window and it escalated. So that's,
Is that the cycle?
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
It is. And at the minute that they really lose control,
Which was then?
they have to take greater levels of control, which is where the escalation comes from. And none of this is your fault. None of this is my fault.
No.
We should be able to exist and live a life that we want to live without being harmed.
Yes.
We're not, we
Isn't that
don't
a wild
deserve to be harmed. And I think for me in this sector, one of the worst things about it is that if I had been harmed in the way that I was harmed by a stranger in the street, they'd still be in jail. My ex-husband only served 4 months. And that's a real struggle for me to reconcile.
Yeah, and let's go there because, again, I told you off mic and I said, maybe this is why you were meant to come into my life. But yours has served time.
He did serve time, and look, I was very, very lucky because we all know in most domestic and family violence cases that you don't just obtain evidence. Like evidence, they're not going to do the things that they do to you behind closed doors, on a camera or on a recording or in front of people.
And can I also say,
but not very often.
And often, so can I also say often, Trent was getting privy to me trying to actually record because I was like, you're a sick fuck who is doing these things, and it was almost like I would record things to be like, I need to remember this that I'm in this, and when he love bombs, I need to remember this, but. I remember he had access to everything, even without my unknowing, essentially. So obviously I didn't know he had my phone PIN code because I wasn't allowed to touch his phone.
Of course not.
But obviously he positions himself right. So because I don't hide unlocking my phone. Who hides?
Have to.
Correct. But obviously at some point he had seen me do it, and that would have been very strategic. So he was constantly in my phone, which I later found out. We believe that he'd bugged my computer. And so when I had evidence on my phone, he went in and deleted it. The night that he split my lip open, I mean, he's admitted that in text, so I've got that evidence regardless. But the night he had punched my face in, and the ultimate escalation, I thought I was going to die. I want to then speak about your husband serving time because mine still hasn't, because I have not pursued the criminal aspect of this yet, because it's terrifying.
It is,
and it's
very frightening.
And it's I got out from under him and I sprinted to my office because I genuinely thought I was going to die. And I remember shutting the door, knowing I had moments, and locking it, but he'd already broken into the house that afternoon, and doing a proof of life and recording myself profusely bleeding from my mouth saying, I'm going to die. Like I was like, I'm going to die. My name is Anna Rose Richards. Like I was like, I'm going to die. He's at the door. You can hear him right now. Like, please. It was Trent James. Like I was just proof of lifing. And he got in and he fucking deleted it. Right? Like, you can have evidence and they delete it.
And I've got a very similar story.
Yeah.
So ultimately now I call them a episode. That's how I refer to these moments of, serious physical violence that went on for hours and hours and hours. So I call them an episode. Everyone has different names for them. That's what I call them.
Yeah, I like that.
As it escalated in the final years of, I don't like to call it a relationship. I struggle with what to actually call it because I felt honestly like I was trapped in an invisible prison. There were no bars, but I knew where the bars were. That's how it feels like to me. So I was trapped. It wasn't a relationship to me in the final years. And he would actually take my phone. So it was premeditated. So he would pick up my phone. He would check if I was recording, or he would hold on to my phone while he abused and assaulted me. And in the final sort of probably 12 months, this escalation to these events were happening several times a week. It wasn't, I think over the 3 years, it might have been once a month or once every couple of months. And then it went to sort of once every couple of weeks and once a week. And then it was every couple of days. So in the final days, I mean, I knew my days were numbered. So when it got to this point of the final escalation, I knew that if I didn't take some sort of drastic action, that I was in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But I also knew because police had been called out to the home multiple times and there had not been a great response from police. And, I don't hold any animosity and I don't want to criticise the police. I mean, there's articles about where I've told this story. So I'm not going to criticise police because I understand the job so much more now. And he managed to even manipulate the police.
They do.
And what I mean by that is they would turn up at the home, he would feign illness, he would pretend he couldn't remember, he would pretend there was something wrong with him. I would take him for tests and we would think there was a neurological condition or something. He went to that degree and police would pick him up. And because of the history of him creating this false narrative, they would take him to the hospital and he would stay there for a few days and get back out. So he was never really investigated. So I don't know, as I said to you, I know what happened. I've had my say on the police matter and there's articles about this out there, but I don't want to sit here because now that I understand it so much more and I understand the level of coercion and level of manipulation, I can see why the police were manipulated by him. Everybody was, family, friends, everyone.
Were, correct. It's like,
so I go, you know what, now that I'm healed, like we talk about being healed, I sit here and say, I get it and I understand it, and I think that the only thing I could say on that matter is that I wish they had followed up after he got released from the hospital because every result said they couldn't find anything. So if they had followed up on all these other occasions, it may have been solved earlier or maybe it wouldn't have been. I don't know because I didn't have the correct evidence. So I knew that I had to obtain evidence. Like I knew it was a matter of obtaining evidence because I hadn't been able to obtain any evidence apart from, obviously police had come out, there'd be holes in the walls, all that kind of stuff. But there was nothing
Was this to
solid.
put him away? Like you're still in the relationship and you were like, I want to get out, but I know I need it to be safe. I want to put him away, and to put him away, I need evidence.
I knew I needed it. It wasn't even about putting him away. It was about becoming safe, whatever that looked like. Right. And it was about somebody believing me.
Yeah.
Because part of me felt that people thought that I was, exaggerating, or the police thought I was exaggerating, or the hospital thought I was, I wasn't validated. There was nobody there validating me. And what made it really difficult is I had children in the house. So although I had witnesses, children can't be witnesses in certain, legal matters, particularly family court and all that kind of stuff. So I knew that I needed something pretty concrete, and I'd done enough research to know sort of where I was heading. And he would take my phone in these episodes, or he would check I wasn't recording and give it back to me, or whatever it might have been. And about 7 months before the final, episode where that was done and police actually intervened and issued an ouster order and removed him from the home, I just knew it was coming. It's such the cycle goes, it's a cycle. And you get the flowers and you get the make your breakfast and they do all this stuff, and then all of a sudden they start to ignore you and they start to make comments and, here we go, and it's escalating. And then you just know what's going to happen. Yeah. And before the episodes, for me, he would go really quiet. It was like a little calm before the storm, but not calm as in he wasn't in any way aggressive. He was really passive aggressive by stonewalling, and he'd ignore me and he'd grunt at me and all that. And I knew, I'm like, tonight I'm in trouble. And it usually happened at night. Now, he was a very heavy drinker. He wasn't in the early days of the relationship, but towards the end, I mean, it would not be unusual for him to put down a bottle of bourbon in a night. Yeah, wow. That's where it got to. And obviously we all know that when alcohol's involved, it's going to be a lot worse than when it's not, because the part of the brain that stops us doing things we shouldn't do doesn't really work when the alcohol's involved. We know that. The inhibitions are gone and all that kind of stuff. So the minute he would pick up that bottle of bourbon at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or scotch actually was one of his favourites, I knew I was in trouble. And as soon as it got dark, the whole energy in the home would change. The children would scatter. They would go to their rooms. Everything changed. We all knew. Like, it wasn't even a question whether something was going to happen. It was what would the degree of that be. So then I would try and obviously placate him and make sure he was okay and make sure that, tried not to escalate it.
Fit your role.
That doesn't work. It doesn't work. Like, it wasn't, and when I look back now, that's how I know it was not me, because I could be the perfect wife at that time and be like, here's your dinner and here's this and what do you need and just to make sure that he was okay so that he wouldn't attack me.
Yeah.
It didn't work. So it couldn't have been me because I hadn't done anything. So now I can look back at that and go, yep, you know what? I was actually a really great wife to the wrong person, but I was a great wife. And so on this one occasion, he and I look, what I did was really risky because, as I said, he would throw I had my phone thrown on the roof one night.
Yeah, mine was smashed.
So that I couldn't do anything with it. And on this occasion, he was escalating and he checked my phone, normal part of the process, but he gave it back to me.
Okay.
Wasn't recording. So when he left the room to go to the bathroom, I pressed record and I went, now if he finds it, I'm in trouble.
Yeah,
This is
right.
I'm in
risk.
trouble.
I see what you're saying. That's the risk.
So I pressed record and went, I'm just going to hope that I can catch this and I can catch something so that somebody will listen to me and somebody will go, actually, that's not a medical condition.
Right.
That's domestic violence.
Right.
So that's what I was trying to. So it wasn't. I didn't even have in my head. Did I want to go down the criminal route? I didn't. That wasn't even a question.
Safety.
I wanted to get myself and the family safe. That's all I wanted. So I pressed record, and fortunately and unfortunately at the same time, it was one of those evenings where pretty much every form of abuse happened. So it wasn't just a mild evening, which is awful that I'm grading, but it's just to give you a context. You could hear his fist connect with my head in this recording and you could hear me choking. Like he actually strangled me in this recording. So I tried to leave. He wouldn't let me leave and go to my mum's, like deprivation of liberty. There was all this stuff in this recording. Now, on the deleting of the recording. So now knowing that he used to go through my phone, same deal. It's very common. It actually ended up playing all night and he'd hit me in the head that many times. I actually had asked him to call an ambulance and he wouldn't call an ambulance.
This is me.
He wouldn't. So he wouldn't even seek medical treatment for me. So I've gone to sleep. Eventually, at some point, I've passed out. He's passed out. And the next morning, it was still recording. And I've gone, okay, so obviously he hadn't got to my phone. I've pressed stop and I uploaded it to Dropbox immediately. And I don't think he even knew that I had a Dropbox.
Yeah, thank God.
So, but I did confront him over the recording.
Before he left?
Mm-hmm. I did. Now, yes, I know. I look back
look
now
at my
and
face.
go,
I'm like,
what were you thinking?
Lady had some balls.
Oh, yeah. But I was kind of hoping that if there was any chance that he had any empathy.
I know. As soon as I know why you did this.
Any way able to change his behaviour, that I'd done everything that I could as a wife, as a mother, as a partner. Maybe he did have mental health issues. Maybe he had all this stuff. And I was still at a point of going, I still had empathy for him.
Yeah.
So I had told him I had the recording.
Yeah.
He was absolutely mortified, as you can imagine. And within hours, he deleted it from my phone.
Okay. But you got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I knew that he would. So then I questioned him over that. And he turned around and said, oh, you don't want to have to listen to that again. That was his response. And I went, okay. Now, I didn't do anything with the recording immediately because I felt like I needed to get my ducks in a row and I was still very frightened.
Yeah.
So I didn't rush off to the police and people say, but why didn't you? And I went, I was terrified.
This is me too. Yeah.
I had the evidence and I was still frightened.
Yeah. But can I also just say, so I was a woman, sorry, and remember where you're going with this because I think it's really important to pin this for a second and say to women, I only learned sitting in the police station. I did it wrong. And we'll unpack that. But I remember I was told by my psychologist, like, don't do this. You will escalate. He's going to escalate. Your life could potentially be in danger. I think that it is. And I just couldn't take it anymore. But I remember sitting in the police station and he said to me, the most dangerous time to leave is when you're trying to leave. Right? And so I just want people to understand that when you're even hearing this story, because I get asked it all the time. I mean, I've got a forum of haters who attack me consistently about my own fucking story, siding with him. And it's like, well, why didn't she go to the police? Because, fuckbag, I was literally terrified for my life And when you leave, and I was raised in DV, unfortunately, you've just heard that off mic, but I remember the cops used to come, take my violent stepfather away and go, bad man, naughty, and take him away. And guess what happened? He'd come back fucking angrier.
Correct.
And we were in worse danger. So I was like, I know this story.
I've lived poking the bear.
I've lived it before. If I go to the police right now, which I wasn't because I had deprivation of liberty, he held me like hostage. I wasn't allowed to go to the doctors. He wouldn't call an ambulance, like etc. So I've got a horrible scar on my lip because it was so split and then it had to heal itself, no stitches. It was so unsafe.
Correct.
It was so unsafe. And I'll tell the story of how I got him the fuck out of my life. But so I just wanted to, I think it's so important because
really
your
important.
story is even bigger and even crazier. And I'm like, I just sit here so understanding because I'm like, of course you didn't go to the police straight away because what are they going to do? They are amazing. I had a phenomenal officer, but they take him, he gets angry.
Yeah. They poke the bear and then they send
come
the bear
back.
home.
Correct. So yes, okay. So you're...
And I knew that. Like, and also for you, you're talking about your childhood and you'd learnt that from that. I'd learnt that from the previous times the police had turned up to my home.
Yeah.
Took him to hospital and then didn't follow up and he came home. So I knew that I needed to be really, really strategic.
This is me too.
About what I did.
Yeah.
And also, for me, he had control of all the finances.
Yeah, that's very
So
different.
I was walking to homelessness with children in tow. And, okay, you're asking women to choose between violence or homeless.
And you do anything
and it happens
for your
every
kids,
day.
Correct.
So what do you do? Like, you know, it's not an easy choice to make, I can tell you now. So I knew I had to really sort it out so that we were safe, and I mean safe from every angle. So I didn't use it at that time. But it would escalate from there. So that was a real point of escalation, and that's when those sort of events happened sort of every few days, and it just kept picking up and picking up. And I felt like a prisoner. And even though, like, people say, yeah, but did he physically hold you there? Oh, no, but I knew if I left the house, he would call, where are you? What are you doing? I had no money, couldn't leave, couldn't do that. I knew I didn't have the ability to have choice. There was absolutely no ability for me to choose what I wanted to do. If I had chosen, I could have got up, picked the kids up and left, I would have. But we can't. No. So it would be another sort of that was in the January, and in the August, another episode happened. And fortunately, it was in close proximity to a police station. And the police saw me pretty much minutes after it happened, and he was arrested. But when he was picked up...
So you got to that police station?
Yeah. Yeah. Went straight to
Amazing.
the police station, walked into the police station.
Oh, okay, goosebumps.
Said, and it was kind of a strange sort of thing because he took me to the police station and people, when I tell this story, people look at me and go, what? And let me explain it.
I think he is an arg.
He walked me to the police station. We were standing outside the police station at Broadbeach. So if you know the Broadbeach police
that's the
station,
one I went to.
There's a phone booth out the front.
Yeah.
And it was around that spot. I knew enough to know that there was CCTV all around the police station. Right. So at that point, I knew that I was safe. Now, I didn't know why he was walking me and he walked and made me follow him there. I no idea why at the time. He grabbed my face and he looked at me and he said, if I'm that bad, go and tell them.
Oh, he's a fuckhead.
Now, that was my window, real window. That was my second opportunity.
Right.
Now, I knew I had two choices and I had to think really fast. I knew that I had the recording and I knew that I had marks on my body from where his fingernails had been and all that stuff. So I knew that I had, it was fresh. It had just occurred. So there was real forensic evidence.
He didn't think you were going to do it, by the way.
Yeah. So he thought he had enough control that I would turn around and go, no, let's go. But I also knew in that very moment that if I walked away with him, I was going to die.
Yeah.
And I knew that because, and let me tell you why, he would have had to do that. It's pretty ballsy, let's be real.
Yeah.
We were standing outside a police station on CCTV. He thought he had extreme levels of control.
It was power play.
So it was going to get worse. It was never going to get better.
Yeah.
And I had to make that decision on that spot. And I walked from that phone booth, and you know where that is, into those front doors of that police station, and I never turned around. I don't even know what happened after that with him. I don't know whether he stood there. I don't know what happened.
Fuck.
And when I was able to tell my story, they've picked him up and they've brought him, back to the police station. And then they've come in to me and gone, oh, he's saying that you have mental health problems and you're under the care of a psychologist. So he'd even at that point flipped it to say that I was going to, I believe he said that I was going to hurt myself or whatever, and he was trying to stop me. And there was finger marks on me, so that makes sense, to somebody that comes out and goes, well, they're questioning me. So at that point, I actually said to the officer, if I give you a recording that proves my version of events and previous episodes, are you going to take it seriously? And he said, can I hear it? And from there it just, boom. They went, yep. And they took him to the watch house.
Fuck.
So without that recording.
And that's right, yeah.
Without that recording, I don't believe that he would have faced criminal charges because he'd flipped the narrative. So he just turned it around and just went, no, it was my word against his. And quite clever. I was trying to stop her from harming herself. There's finger marks on me, all that. Let's be real, that was really clever. And without that recording, I honestly believe that he would have been home the next day.
And I think, and this is where I get upset for women. Everyone, men are also victims of DV, but statistically it's women.
Absolutely.
Because we really do have similar stories in the sense that lucky, and I hate that word, because the risk you had to take to record, but it's like, it's not lucky, but what I'm saying is,
I've heard that. I've had that word told to me too.
No, but and that's what I'm saying. You're not lucky, and I wouldn't call that. But I'm like, so the frustrating part is there are some women that are the majority statistically are still out there without that recording, trying to leave, or desperate to leave, or unsure what to do. And I suppose the hesitation in me sharing my story without an expert present, in essence, and I really am so grateful for you, and I'm so grateful for this conversation, and we're absolutely going to have so many more, is because I always felt, and this is probably going to bring up a lot of emotion for me again. I'm like, I'm healed, but let me cry the whole episode.
You can be healed and you can cry. Yeah, that's normal emotion.
Beautiful. It's so true. And I feel everything all the time. But there has been this level of guilt. It's almost like a survivor guilt where I did feel so lucky to get out. And I felt this enormous responsibility that if I tell my story, because not similar to you in the sense that, like, what a sick situation to be in, where you were marched to the police station and he thought he had so much control. He said, if I'm so bad, go in. And thank fuck you did. But that was a moment that some other sycophant, narcs and DV abusers don't do.
Yeah, I believe,
window, and
like on a sort of spiritual level, to get into that, I believe that I was being looked after, because I don't understand otherwise how that could have happened. Yeah, I don't.
That's so different. When you were like, he took me, I'm like, what? He didn't take you. He had he did. Yeah, but it's like, he did it in a sick game.
Me, but it was a sick game.
I thought he marched in
You're
there.
Like, what happened? No, and that's why talking about luck, I don't use that word anymore, because I used to, and police, have said to me, oh, you were lucky you weren't killed and you were lucky. I actually use the word blessed because I think I was just blessed. And a lot of women are not.
That's it.
Lot of women, there are women who are killed.
Yeah.
There are women who suffer like this forever. And there are also some other cases, and I mean, I know they can't necessarily be proven, but, what about all the suicides? Yeah. Because I can tell you right now, every woman that I've ever dealt with, including myself, that thoughts come into their mind.
That instantly makes me so emotional, because, even I thought about it.
Yeah. And I don't know a woman who hasn't, because when you get pushed, it's a level of torture.
It is.
I mean, I was even sleep deprived. He would just wake me up and keep me awake and just poke me and keep me awake and go on and on at me for hours and hours and take me around in circles for hours on end.
Yeah, same.
That's not the way to live.
16 months worth.
Yeah.
But I think for me, so my blessed moment came from, he had done the act. I was deprivation of liberty, so I was begging for an ambulance. I was begging for assistance. I had tried to run, so I tried to sprint out of the house that night. He had taken my phone. That's what woke me up. The series of events based off of things like, the theft. So the crypto was stolen, which I explained, and based off of that Etherscan transaction, we can tell what time he did that.
Yeah.
And then he woke me up at 2 a.m. So a few hours later, I woke up, I'd locked the door. What had happened was I tried to kick him out. My psych was like, under no circumstances. He didn't know I'd hired a psychologist. He didn't need to because I had money.
Yeah.
And this is where the guilt has come in, I suppose, where I'm like, I literally got out as fast as I did because I had money and he couldn't control it. He was just a broke ass. So for me, I had money, and so I had gone and hired a private psychologist and paid a lot of money to basically have her tell me why I was with this man and what I could do to get out.
Yeah.
And so I was working with her in the times that he would go to the gym or leave the house. And she was the one that explained to me, she said, Anna, I'm going to tell you, because I was still like, not reconciling, but almost like over-explaining and justifying some behaviour. And she said, look, I'm going to tell you, I believe that you are in a dangerous situation. I think you're dating a narcissist. I would have heard the term before, but because it just wasn't in my world, I was like, what is a narcissist? And she said, I think you're in grave danger and this is what I need you to do. And I need you to, and she sort of explained the cycle, and I was like, wow, I'm living this textbook.
Yeah.
And that's what broke my cycle, by the way. So if everyone's always like, what made you realize? It was a professional or it was an individual hearing parts of my story, breaking the veil and saying, you were with a narcissist, you were in an abusive relationship, and because we hide it. I hid it. Anyway, I hid it. And
Image
so I was
management.
like, wow. And so once it was intellectually explained to me, and this is probably definitely my personality type as well, I could then start to intellectualize, oh, this is the part of the cycle that's happening again. Oh, I'm getting love bombed. So this time I wasn't on the emotional roller coaster. I was intellectualizing, oh, you're love bombing me and I'm going to grey rock you.
Correct.
Right? And so that started to occur. Now, she even explained, she said, this is what's going to happen now. You're going to start to intellect. So I was like, yeah.
I love that.
And then she said, and he is a narcissist, so he is so acutely aware of every minute emotion and energy change in you, he's going to know. And so what's going to happen is he's going to start to lose control and his escalations are going to get worse. So this was all given to me like, and she said, under no circumstances, the most unsafe time for you is right now because you're becoming aware and he can't set you off anymore because he couldn't. I just didn't give a fuck about him. And she said, just don't do anything because I am worried about your life. That's going to upset him too much. We are going to put a plan together to get you out safely. Anyway.
Manage it.
Anna Rose did not listen.
Of course not.
And that was the issue, right? It got to the point, I think he was just downstairs and it was just a shitty day and he was just being himself and he was abusing me and I was just so done. It was my house. I was like, I'd said this 10,000 times, get the fuck out. Get out. Just get out. Leave the house. And he realised, he could obviously sense it, that I really meant it. And so he started to love bomb me and I was like, I'm done. So I went and packed his shit and I packed all of his stuff and I put it outside. He had like 2 suitcases and I put it out the front door because I knew he'd be mortified because you can't embarrass a narcissist, that he'd run out and get his suitcases and then I was going to shut and lock the door. And that's exactly what I did. Playbook, he ran out, he went to get his suitcases to drag them into, and I knew, again, the risk. That was an enormous risk.
Huge.
But I did it and I just thought I'll lock the door and he can't get back in because I lived in a 2-story house. I thought it was very secure. Anyway, he broke in. And that's when I started. Now, I should have called the police. Hindsight, of course I should have, but I didn't. And then he begged. He was like, I am so sorry. Look, give me 24 hours and I will be gone. I promise you. And I said, okay, I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to lock my door. We fought about it for a bit and I was like, no, tonight you can call people. And he was just so fucking convincing. And I was like, fine, I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to lock the door and I don't want to hear from you. Don't bother me. It was about 4 o'clock at this stage. And I said, by 9 a.m. tomorrow, you're gone. Otherwise, I will call the police. Like I was like, I'm so done, right? But we can do this civilly. And then that was that. I went upstairs. I watched movies on my TV and then I went to sleep. At about 2, 3 a.m., I woke up and because I heard an elephant, like someone was pacing at the end of my bed and it was him. Now, instinctually as a woman, you know when you're in danger.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was like, it's time to call the police. And I went to reach for my phone and my phone was gone. And then I was like, fuck.
Terrifying.
And then I started to say, Trent, where's my phone? Where's my phone? And he was, what phone? And he was manic. He was just like cackling. And he was like, what phone? I don't have your phone. And I was like, where is my phone? Just give me my phone. And I'm trying to reason. And I was like, it's okay. You're going to leave tomorrow morning. Like, what's going on? And he was escalating. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go get his phone. And if I get his phone, because I wasn't ever allowed to touch his phone. And people go, what was the thing? And I'm like, it was this, I think, that triggered him the most. Because I was never allowed, because his whole world of lies, the cheating, everything was on that. So I went downstairs, I grabbed his phone and I came up and I was like, let's just swap. I've got your phone, give me my phone and we can do a swap. And it was like, and I have heard this so many times when I hear women's stories, but it was the devil. Like his eyes went black.
Yeah.
I physically saw, it was still him, because Ryan hates hearing that, my beautiful fiance, because he's like, don't separate. It was him that did it. I'm like, no, I know it was him that did it.
I know what you're saying though.
But I saw his eyes go
changes.
black and I was like, oh fuck, like demonic. And he just started, just started to wail on me and split my lip open.
Gosh.
I turned, I saw myself in the mirror and I started screaming. And then that's when I tried to run. I said, I need an ambulance, call an ambulance, call an ambulance. I was bruised, split, hurt. And I was like, call an ambulance, call an ambulance. And he panicked, obviously, grabbed my phone, which was under the bed. So he leant under, grabbed my phone. And I was like, okay, my phone. He starts running. So I'm running after him to get my phone. We're downstairs. He takes it on. He was going to tile. I imagine that's what he was doing. He went out the back, smashed my phone. I lived on a paddock sort of thing. Picked it up. It was pouring rain. I'm still bleeding profusely. And so we're downstairs now, which is exit. And he looked at me and threw my phone. And so I remember thinking, run. I was screaming. Rest assured, though, I was fucking screaming this whole time. Help me, help me. Someone call the police. Help me, help me. And I still, to this day, I still want to go knock on the neighbours' doors and be like, I know you heard me. And please, if you ever hear screaming, call the fucking police.
Yeah, you're better off to call them and it be nothing.
Correct.
They're not going to mind coming out to nothing.
I step in on so many things now because I'm like, you just never know. And I ran. So at that point, I was like, run. And I turned to run and I was trying to sprint out and he chased me, got me. And I was like, I'm fucked, and then was strangling me. And I was like, I'm going to die. And he said, he's like, I'm going to kill you. If I can't have you, no one can have you. And he's like, you're the devil. You did this. But no one can have you. You're going to die. I know where I'm going to bury you. He told me the whole play. He's like, I've thought about this. I'm going to put you in your car, in your trunk. I know where I'm going to bury you. And I was like, I'm going to die. You're going to do this. And Vanessa, my psych, had said to me, if anything happens, you can play the narcissist. And so she'd taught me how to play the narcissist, which was just act like you always acted, basically. Go back to that wounded woman and beg for your life, show emotion, because they feed off of that. And that's what I did. So this survival instinct kicked in, and I, instead of reacting to him, which would have gotten him off as a narc essentially and aggravated and elevated him, escalated him, I started to be like, I'm so sorry, it's my fault, through, I'm so sorry, it's me, it's my fault, I've done this, I did this, this is my fault, I love you, I love you, I love you, which
been there,
hurt me 10 billion times more than any punch. And then he I watched him go, yeah, it's your fault. You did this, didn't you? Yeah. And I was like, okay, I've got a few more minutes at least right now. And I was like, I did this. I did this. Just call an ambulance. And he was like, no. And I was like, okay, don't worry about the ambulance. I'm just like, and then he was deputy of liberty for 3 days. I wasn't allowed to leave the house. I wasn't allowed to shit, eat, move. He would force himself onto me. I just was dying. But the way that I got out was I had money, and I remember thinking, I need to physically fucking get him back to Perth, and I can stay here. And I remember I said, he'd been talking about, I heard him on the phone, he'd been talking about this expo. He owned a stripping company, and he had been talking about this expo that he wanted to do, but he was like, oh, fuck flying back. I'm not going to spend the money. And so in those 3 days of like vying for my life, because I was like, at any point this man can turn again.
Absolutely.
And I was like, I'm going to, let's go. Remember that expo you were talking about? I've got a split lip, bruises on my face. And I'm like, remember that expo you were talking about? Like, why don't I go and support you? Like, I'll fly you back. And that was my blessed window of opportunity.
Yeah.
And the idiot fell for it. He was like, yep, okay, if you're going to pay for it, fucking oath. And so I bought us tickets to fly. I text my mum and I was like, Mum, don't ask me questions. Do not text back. Like, I'm coming back to Perth. I'm going to need, like, if I text you now, ask me nothing, no matter what you're doing, you leave from where you are and you come and fucking get me.
That gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, and I said, just please don't text me back. I'm safe. I am okay. But just because he was watching, this was 3 days later, he'd taken me to get a new phone. And I remember he was watching, he turned around to send a text. It was probably to a girl, right? So it wasn't next to me. He turned his back.
Yeah, of course.
And I remember the woman at Vodafone was like, okay, like whispered, like, but again,
Wow.
I'm like, what the fuck I can't say no. Again, window of opportunity, but I'm like, what?
But what could you have done in that moment?
I wanted to physically remove him from my state. And I know a lot of, and this is where the guilt comes in.
You had to be strategic.
Yeah. And that's what happened. I got him back to Perth. We did the expo. We literally got home. He got in the shower. He said, come and stand on the mat. I wasn't allowed to. He physically was deprivation of complete liberty.
Yeah.
And I stood on the mat.
He took your autonomy.
And he said, I got my phone because I was like this. I was like literally shaking like a leaf. And he's like, who are you texting? And I said, my mum. And he goes, well, show me. And I literally turned and I wrote, now. I put the word. And he goes, what the fuck? And I fucking ran for my life. He was in the shower. I was like, well, you're not going to run after me naked. We lived in a beautiful suburb called Cottesloe in Perth. And I fucking ran for my life. And I left my suitcase and I sprinted out the door and I sprinted down the stairs. And I was like, I could like barely run.
Wobbly
Like I was
legs.
shaking.
Yeah.
I've never fucking shaken like that in my life. And I dove into bushes. And my mum called and was like hysterical. She's like, I'm on the way. I'm half an hour away. What the fuck is going on? And I was like, just get here. Stop at the roundabout, let Row run up. She was like, are you safe? And I was like, I will be. Just fucking get here. And then I remember calling one of my best friends who had absolutely no idea what was going on in the sand dunes of Cottesloe, crying because I was like, if he gets me, at least I'm on the phone and she can call the police. She can call the police. And so I called my best friend Katie and I was like having a fucking panic attack. And I was like, I'm not okay. Just stay on the phone. I need you to listen to this. If Trent comes, call the police. And I just waited in the sand dunes. And he came. He was trying to find me and I was hidden in the bushes. And he was searching for me. And then he'd sort of gone back near the property and was waiting. And my mum pulled up and I sprinted into the car and collapsed. And mum saw him and was just knew. And I had the panic attack of all panic attacks, but I was safe. And that's how I got out.
And did you know at that moment that was going to be, that was final safety, that was it? Yeah, I was the same.
Because he'd punched, I'll be honest. I mean, he'd done other things. He'd thrown a phone really hard at my body and split my hip open. So that's the level of, he'd dug his fingers in before. He had put his hands around my throat. There was other things he had done for sure. People like, were there warning signs? I'm like, fuck, there was 20 million.
Of course there was.
Like there was 20 million. But exactly what you said at the start of the episode, it was never, like there was never a moment of total safety where I felt, and I wasn't the woman that could ultimately leave. But anyway, I got back to the Gold Coast, told all my best friends, but I was still scared. It wasn't, and I said, I don't want to go to the police yet. And they were like, we're going to the police. And honestly, it wasn't until, so he had tried to end me physically. He tried to end me financially. He'd stolen the money. He had tried to, and then it was public takedown.
Of course.
So then he actually, I think he'd had to have been on drugs because he just did a 3-day public takedown. And that's what took me to the police. I was like, I'm so fucking sick of all of it. Because honestly, I was like, I'm alive. I'm away from him now. I want this man to just, and I was texting, I was like, you will leave me alone or I will go to the police. I was trying to threaten him, like, if you come for me again, then I'll go to the police. I will fucking ruin your life. Bargaining. Thank you. Okay, yes. Is this a cycle? Yes. I was bargaining.
You were bargaining. Yeah.
And then he went on the most psychotic, bullshit, defamatory take time. And I remember he was like, she's cheated on her husband. I remember my ex-husband, who's a beautiful man, calling me and was like, I'm going to go kill this guy. Like, you need to tell him to stop because I'm going to go kill him. And then that's what led me to the police. I was like, you can't because then you're going to get in trouble. And he was like, Anna, I'm on the way.
So classic.
Like, I know where this cunt lives. And I was like, okay, well, I need to do something. And so I remember I called Katie again and I was hysterical. And I said, I just don't know what to do. And she said, I'm on the way. And she pulled up and I had no choice. She said, get in the fucking car. We're going to the police. And I walked into the police station and because it was still, he was literally still in a defamation, like he was still texting me, putting things online. And I remember being like, the police was like, said, come through. And I just went in and Katie was beside me and I was just sobbing. And my phone was like next to me going off. And the cop said, is that him right now? And Katie goes, yeah. And he goes, give me the phone. And I handed the phone to this cop and the cop sat. So Trent was threatening to kill the cop, basically. It was
happening in front of him.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right? So again, it was just almost like I'm blessed, essentially.
The right timing.
Right timing.
And it all worked out. But can I just clarify something for you? So you were talking before about, all the guilt and all that kind of stuff. And we've spoken about the windows of opportunity. And for everyone listening, this is really, really important. The best person to gauge the level of risk is the victim.
Yeah.
So when we make these decisions and we strategize to get out, we're doing that with the intimate knowledge that we have. Nobody can have that knowledge that we have.
Yeah.
So you've chosen the perfect time.
Yeah, I did.
To keep you safe.
I did.
I chose the perfect time to keep me safe. And when we start overriding the victim, we actually place them in more danger. So for everyone listening and wants to be a really good upstander, and I call them an upstander, not a bystander, because to me, bystander implies that we're passive and that we're sort of stepping back and letting it happen. To be a good upstander, we need to support the victim to make the choice in the correct time because they know how much danger they're in. And we've got checklists and we've got, all these tools that we can use to have some indication of the level of danger. But you're actually the best person to gauge when is the right time to leave.
And even how to do it. That's so validating. Thank you.
The strategy, it's all up to you.
Because I remember thinking like the only thing that this man is obsessed with is himself and his business. And so I knew that, it's so true. I was like, I just know exactly how to keep myself safe. And I will say, though, the police were freaking, Senior Constable Moran was his name. He was unbelievable. And I remember him saying to me, I want you to speak to victims because your story, how you've done this is unbelievable. And I said, but it's not fair because I had money, right? In the sense that I was like, I was able to, a psych saved my life, realistically, because in that moment, I was like, survival instinct kicked in. And it was like, I didn't beg for my life because that would have ultimately escalated it. I just started to play the narc. And I said it was my fault. I never in a trillion years would have thought to have done that because it had never gotten that bad and I didn't really know what to ever do.
Yeah.
And so I love what you just said there because I'm like, I think for a lot of women as well that are listening that have a friend in this situation or a sister in this situation, it's so true where it's like you want to do everything in your power to keep them safe and to get them out. But unfortunately, it's so dangerous and the risk is so high. The cop said to me, he said, if this had have gone 1 centimetre the other way or 1 degree of difference in a decision you didn't make, it would have been a different crime scene.
Correct.
It would have been a
100%.
very different crime scene.
And I know that people want to help and they can help. Yeah. The best way that they can help is talk things through with you. They can brush up their knowledge on cycles of violence and how it works. That's really, really important. And there's some really great they're called bystander programs out there now for, people in the community in domestic and family violence. So get into some of these programs and actually learn what to do. But the best thing that they can do is support you, keep checking in with you and keep having the conversations and give you information, help you gain clarity on your own situation, but never, ever, ever interfere against what the person's telling you.
Yeah.
Because that becomes really dangerous.
Yeah.
Really dangerous. And, I've even seen it where people, and they mean well. People mean well. They want you to be safe. Obviously, if there's an immediate danger, absolutely intervene.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying if somebody
Correct.
is right now in serious danger, call the police, do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Call 000, absolutely. But when we're in the stages of getting
Trying
that
to
strategy
get out,
together
correct.
and work out how to get out safely, support the process. Encourage them to go to the police. Absolutely encourage them to speak. But what can happen, and I've seen it happen before, is if somebody turns around and goes, no, I'm going to take over and I'm going to interfere, and they call the police, and the police turn up at a door, and the victim or survivor, whatever word you want to use, I think we're both at times, and that person goes, no, there's nothing happening here. You've just placed them in a much greater danger than what they were in before the police turn up at the door.
And
So I think it's really important to be aware.
That.
They need to understand it. And I'm certainly not saying walk away. I actually, unfortunately, had people walk away from me.
It's
And
so common.
it isn't because they didn't care.
Yeah.
It's because they didn't know how to handle it. They didn't know how to help. And that can be really hard as well. So, look, I think we need more bystander programs, or upstander, as I call them. Stand up and do something. Don't stand back and watch. And standing up and doing something can be, if you see bad behaviour you might be at a barbecue with friends, and you see bad behaviour from a man towards a woman, and it might be a comment, might be a misogynistic remark about women, or whatever it might be, a sexual remark, speak up and say, no, that's not okay. And as a society, the quicker we start to stop tolerating the behaviour that leads us here, the quicker we can get a handle on it.
Yeah.
At the moment, we're reactive.
Yeah.
Police and support services and all this kind of stuff, and then it ends up in court and this happens. That's reactive. We need to be proactive.
And men too. I know we're so big on this, but it's like, and I know you meant that. If anyone sees behaviour, call it out. If anyone sees behaviour. But I'm so big on that because I'm like, I do feel like, and there was a real movement a while ago, but it was kind of like men trying to, I think we were more trying to enroll the men in this conversation.
Yeah,
to be like, hey, call your brother out.
When I use the word men, I believe the biggest influence and the biggest way we can make a change, it is amongst men.
Yeah.
Men need to be having these groups, and men need to be calling each other out on their behaviour. And yeah, you're right, anyone needs to speak up, absolutely. But I honestly, firmly believe that men need to be a part of the solution. And I mean, you touched on it earlier. There are male victims of domestic and family violence, and I never downplay that. And I have clients that are male clients at the moment, and I never downplay it, and they are. But as you articulated earlier, the bulk of them are women, let's be honest.
Statistically,
they
it
are.
is.
And I do think as well it's a different form of abuse, and women are far more in that physical danger than men are.
Oh, 100%. It's just, unfortunately, statistically, scientifically.
It is. Yeah, it's
you
the way that
just can't
it is.
argue
And
that.
yes, it does happen to men, absolutely. Yeah. And when we get, and I get it a lot, but what about the men? What about the men? What about the men? I work with men, so I do totally understand it, and I do totally get it. But at the end of the day, most of the femicides in our country are committed by men. There is more, and the argument often comes out and says, "Oh, more men die of murder." Yeah, but it's by other men most of the time. So let's be real.
Well, men are, and then it's tragic because men are also then killing themselves, right?
And they are, absolutely.
Yeah, but that is for another
another
podcast.
episode.
Yeah, that's a whole other episode. Now, Michelle, thank you from the bottom of my heart. We are like at the hour. I would
went quick, didn't it?
I know, and it's so beautiful because I didn't really set up. I sort of said, why I wanted to really have you on. In general, I'm passionate because this is a very lived experience, but I really wanted the first episode to be a safe place for me to share the whole story, more of the story with you here to exactly what you did. I didn't even ask for that, but you were like bargaining. I'm like, wow, okay, that was part of the cycle.
Yeah.
And then I would love if you came back on. I know we haven't organised it yet, but I'm like, if I say it on the mic, she has to say yes.
I'd love to.
And we can
There's
then
a lot
really
to
unpack. Correct. The next episode. And I will do it back to back. So this will be released in a few weeks. When you're listening to this, you'll be listening to this. But and so in the next couple of weeks, I'll have you come back in and we'll re-record one that can drop, the following week after it, really talking about the cycles of abuse. I know there's great programs and stuff out there, but this will become a tool and not a program, but it will become a tool for many people. So
It's great.
I'd love to talk about, you know, the cycles of abuse, education. I would love to also I was just about to say, I'd love to talk about the systems and also decisions around, you know, we can unpack the absolute truth of where I'm at, where it's like I could absolutely pursue train criminally. My constable's still like, please, at any point I want to.
We can talk about
and then my psychology around that and which will lend into the systems in general and what court is like. Correct.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for sharing your heart. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And until next time, everyone, I know that was a really heavy one. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening. I think if anybody needs to hear this episode, send it on. It can impact so many women. I think as well, my big thing is I just want women to know, and I know this will be you as well, but it's like I tell my own story, not being, you know, in the space as an advocate essentially, because I never want women to feel shame. And shame thrives in shadows. And so if a woman can even look at me, and because I say it happened all the time. You went through this? Yeah, I did. And it's okay.
And it's not our shame.
And it's not my shame to bear. So yeah, if this could impact anyone that you know that's been in a situation like that and still carries shame, then by all means share this episode and I will see you on the next one.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Anything Goes. And if today's episode gave you maybe a new perspective, a little bit of a laugh, you learned something new, or just loved our trip to Taboo Town if we went there, it would honestly mean the world to me if you could leave me some love with writing a review and sharing this episode to your socials. You have no idea how much that helps my little podcast get out in the world. If you love what you gain from these conversations weekly with me as well and want more than just listening in, come and join my inner circle. It's my monthly mastermind where for just $47 a month, the real magic happens. You get me up close, no filter, live coaching. And if you get what you get from this free podcast, imagine what you get in a paid container. Links are in the show notes, friends. And until next time, stay wild.